Autumn like wants to watch YouTube Kids, so I'm always like super looking over her shoulder.
Yeah, like because you never really know what's going to be on there.
It's like there was one where this guy made a shit post where it was like, I think I might have already talked about it, but it was like Thomas the tank engine or whatever it is. And how the fuck does that song go? There's like something about he says something about like bathe in the blood of my enemies or something like that.
What the hell?
And a bunch of parents got mad. And he's like, I never put that on YouTube Kids.
Yeah.
So YouTube
like,
was
it was never intended to go there.
Like YouTube was like, oh, Thomas, we'll just stick it on YouTube Kids. He's like, I never wanted it to go on there.
Right. Yeah.
He's like, it's a shit post. So kids are like screaming, like running away.
It's like that scene from what was it, the second Wreck-It Ralph movie, where the little bunny explodes and the little girl screams in the back seat. Yeah, I was just showing Wesley before we got started this. I found this content farm video on YouTube. A lot of people don't know what content farm stuff is. It's procedurally generated, like. I don't know if you can really call it procedure. What it is like you have this like conglomerate of people, probably like 50, 60 people, and they just have access to all these assets, just like 3D models of like Elsa and Spider-Man and just whatever they can get their hands on. Like it'll be like the doll from Squid Games, like with SpongeBob, and it'll be like a minute to 10-minute long thing of them just doing something random, like playing snowball. What it is like kids see these characters that they recognize,
right,
and some characters that they shouldn't recognize, and they just look at it. It doesn't even matter what they're doing.
Right. But
this one was called Mickey on the Railway, and it starts out with this like it's not a Mickey Mouse render that they took from anything. It's like one that they made themselves. And it looks like a bootleg Mickey Mouse.
No.
And it's like Mickey Mouse, and he's on a railroad track, and he's picking up rocks, and he gets hit by a train. And it's not terribly graphic or anything, but
he's like bounces
away. And Mickey Mouse, what does he say? He says, "That's not fair."
Yeah, something about the train hits Mickey and he breaks his bones.
It said down came it says Mickey on the railway picking up stones. Down came an engine and broke Mickey's bones.
Yeah.
Al said, "Mickey, that's not fair." Oh, said the engine driver, "I don't care."
I feel like it's just like somebody who has like a very like loose grasp on the English language.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that rhymes.
That
right?
sounds like a nursery rhyme. It's so funny that stuff just cracks me up because it's funny because I don't think that there's any nefarious intent behind it.
No.
I think they are fully aware that, like, as long as they have characters that kids recognize and they put them in a video, the kids are going to watch it. They'll get their billions of views and their shitload of YouTube ad money. But they don't have any idea of, like, storyboarding or, like, you know, there's no progression to any of these things. Just happen. It's just, I mean,
just chaos.
Yeah, and you know, at the same time, they're not trying to put on like a national television show. I get that, but it's just an odd thing to watch.
No,
it's so weird.
One thing does not lead to another.
No,
it's fucking bizarro world.
Things just occur.
Yeah,
it's like that movie Cloud Atlas.
Yeah,
you ever seen that movie?
No.
It was I kind of like half watched it because like I think like 30 minutes in my eyes just rolled into the back of my head. But it's got
is that the one where it's like Channing Tatum is like a dog man?
I don't think so.
Maybe that might be what's the name of that movie?
You're not thinking of the comedy movie where Danny McBride has him like on a gimp leash.
No, It's something else. Go ahead and talk. I'll see if I can find it.
You know, Cloud Atlas is a movie with Tom Hanks, and like I want to say he keeps getting like reincarnated or he's jumping around in time or something. I like I said, I didn't really pay attention to what was going on because after a while it just got so convoluted. But it's I've noticed this before, like with movies that get a reputation as being like these really like deep intellectual films. are usually just a collection of events.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever noticed that? Like, it's your story is not good because it's convoluted. You can have a convoluted story that is good. If there's like a through line or a connecting something that you have to work, you as the audience have to work a little bit to kind of put together.
Right.
That's one thing, but just having a story that's convoluted for convolution's sake is, number one, it's pretentious, and two, it's terrible writing.
Yeah, so the one I was thinking of is called Jupiter Ascending, and he plays
He plays a dog man?
It was like an elf guy.
An elf guy? Why did you say dog man?
I don't know. That's what I always thought it was. It's
in your memories, what did he look like? Before you looked that up, what were you picturing?
Like with a nose and floppy ears.
Like the Snapchat filter.
It'd be funny if that's how they filmed it. Like, the kids are going to love this.
Yeah. Yeah, but like, there's a lot of video games that are bad about doing that too. As far as like the story being convoluted just to be convoluted.
No.
There are some that are, you're not given everything right up front, and you kind of have to put in the legwork to figure out what's going on.
No.
That's fine. Like say Dark Souls, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Almost the entirety of Dark Souls is told through. That's like a 10, 12 hour long game, and there's probably about
depending upon how good you are at the game.
There's probably about 6 minutes of cutscenes total.
No.
And it's not really like people talking and explaining what's going on. It's just like a character shows up.
No.
Most of most of the story is told through the actual environment and the descriptions on items that you pick up, and you just kind of have to piece all this stuff together yourself. No. It's a story that can't be told really through any other medium. No. It can only be told that way. But then you have games like Kingdom Hearts. I don't know if you know what that is.
I remember that came out. The first one came out like a long time ago.
A long time. Yeah. I think that was a PlayStation
2, maybe.
Was it PS2?
Yeah, it might have been PS2.
I never played them.
No.
But I have heard and watched videos before of people trying to talk about.
Kind of seems like a shameless cash grab.
Well, do you know what it is? I didn't really know what it was.
It's like an anime Disney.
It's Disney characters mixed with Final Fantasy characters.
Like real Final Fantasy?
Like actual Final Fantasy characters.
I didn't know that.
So you have Cloud from Final Fantasy VII and Goofy the fucking dog. I didn't know that that's what it was. Yeah. I thought it was just like you said, just random anime characters mixed in with Disney properties, which I guess it might as well been. But Is the
gameplay the same where it's turn-based?
No, it's not turn-based. It's I think it's free-range combat, I think. Because I've seen videos of it before. But like I said, I never played it. I never had any interest in it. Mainly because, when I was in school, the kids who did like Kingdom Hearts, I didn't want to be associated with them. Right. But I watched a video a long time ago about, kind of explaining the story. Because I like to watch stuff like that sometimes, just lore stories on things.
No.
Or lore videos on things. And I was there was an 11-hour-long one about Kingdom Hearts, and I was like, how can it be 11 hours? Yeah. How? And I think I made it 45 minutes in, and I was already completely lost. The amount of there's no good way to put the timeline together because shit's just so convoluted. Entries into the series happen before the one ahead of it, but not the one behind it, and it's just it's definitely. I think what that whole series was an exercise in not having a destination with your story and just kept slapping things on top of it. It's like when you build a sandcastle as a kid and it's just wet sand that you keep just slapping wet sand on.
It's like a paper mache hill.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it seems like to me. And people, it's like I said, people will praise it as if it's some oh, but geniuses the writers were to write it this way. I was like, there was no forethought to this. They didn't have this as a vision.
I feel like they all have, all the writers are just the whole Wojak with the caved in head.
Yeah. I fucking love those things. My favorite one is the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
The guy who's got a hamster wheel for a brain. Or the one that's like it's just like a cavern in his head and it says bottomless pit. Those are so funny. It's really funny. Those memes are funny because it's such a surefire way to derail an argument.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like, it's whoever resorts to that first loses, in my opinion.
No.
But at the same time,
do they really?
Do you really? Yeah. Because it's so effective. I've seen it before where people will take it like a layer further and like have a comic of a guy being like, look, I drew you as the soy jack and me as the Chad, meaning that I'm correct. Yeah. It's funny. People don't argue, or people don't debate. They argue.
No.
Big difference in those things.
I'm trying to think. There was another one that I was going to say that, like the storyline. Oh, I remember like when we first got, this might have been on the Dreamcast, so that was quite a while ago. They had, or it might have been the original Xbox. They had Soul Calibur.
Soul Calibur, yeah.
And like the story didn't make any sense.
It like there wasn't really a story.
Yeah, and then like the characters, like when they would speak to one another, like they would just say random lines.
Yeah, they didn't really sound like a conversation.
Yeah, like somebody would be like, taste the steel of my blade, and somebody would come up and they'd go, I like Sundays.
Yeah.
Like, what?
And then the narrator's like, they were mortal enemies. Like, were they? Seems like one's a psychopath and one's a 5-year-old. Yeah. They made a ton of those games. If you asked me like what the story was, I have no idea.
I can't tell you.
I don't think the writers know. They just, I think that you have like character sheets with like their personalities and like their relations to one another, but beyond that, there's no real story.
No. It's just like when the game chooses the fucking when the game chooses the audio, it just like probably runs like a randomizer in the background. It's just a bunch of like if-else statements.
Yeah. Like stuff that's kind of like loosely related to one another. It's like I remember. I mean, it's been such a long time since I played that game, but I remember like you had Ivy, who was like the 50-year-old British woman dominatrix.
Oh,
the game was extremely sexually charged, and to be honest, it shouldn't have been rated T for teen.
No, it was like, which one was the one that was like the pedophile guy with like the sword fingers?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I mean, he's not canonically a pedophile, but you get pedophile vibes from him.
Oh yeah, big time. He's always like gyrating and thrusting.
Yeah, yeah, he was. Oh my god. He was like this twinky old man, and he always wore like a bondage suit. I hated fighting that guy.
Yeah, I would just try to dispense of him as quickly as possible.
I keep wanting to say Volvo, but it's not Volvo.
Vulva.
Vulva, yeah. Oh, it was Voldo.
Yeah, Voldo.
Voldo, that was his name. Yeah. Whenever you got pinned up against that guy, you're just like, ugh, get him away from me.
He's always trying to like rub on you.
Yeah. But you remember, like, all, like, the women characters had, like, just fucking knockers. These huge tits, these giant asses, and, like, these 3-inch waists, and, like...
They're all wearing heels for some reason.
Everybody was in heels and, like, short skirts or, like, bodysuits. Yeah. And, like, the jiggle physics were insane in that game. Like, anytime, like, the female character would, like, move, her tits would just, like, convulse.
It's like you might as well just like had him like put some tassels on and like a butt plug.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, it was ridiculous what they used to get away with.
Well, it's like, what was the one that they had? Everybody got so upset about. It was it Dead or Alive beach volleyball or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Because I remember like when that, I never played it, but when that one came out, I remember Game Informer. You remember Game Informer?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They wrote like a big article about like sex in video games or something like that, and how it was kind of getting a little out of hand.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, there was always a market for games that had sexual themes.
Well, I mean, like Leisure Suit Larry.
Well, yeah, like Leisure Suit Larry and stuff like that.
Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Right. But that was for adults.
Right.
The issue was like the sexualness was like going then lower in the ESRB ratings,
Right.
and it was it was bringing a lot of attention from parents,
Right.
because they were seeing their kids playing these games. I mean, which that's fair to be concerned about that kind of thing. But I think Dead or Alive actually started out like as a fighting game, didn't it?
It did.
And then like two entries into the series, they're like, "Fuck it, let's just make one where they're all on the beach hitting each other with their tits."
Yeah.
We know why we're all here.
Yeah, I remember that was like a big deal when that came out.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of people were really upset about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not a lot of teenage boys.
No.
Yeah.
No, lots of concerned parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's also funny now seeing like female characters in video games these days.
Yeah.
Because they're very dumpy. Like they purposefully make them very dumpy and unattractive. Yeah. And what it is it's an overcorrection from that what that used to be. Well, let me specify. Western game developers.
Yeah, Japan still doesn't give a fuck.
Japan still doesn't give a shit. You're gonna have huge tits and scantily clad women.
Yeah.
That's just what that's gonna be.
Yeah.
Their sensibilities are not the same as ours.
No, they don't give a fuck.
Not in the slightest, no.
Which is crazy to me because, like, even still, like, over there, like, they're not having kids, like, at all.
Maybe it's because they're jerking off too much.
Maybe. Maybe they're just like these normal women just ain't doing it for me.
Yeah.
I need somebody with, like, triple X titties and...
Well, I have heard before that the Japanese men are, on the whole, not... Well, how do I want to say this? The majority of Japanese men are attracted to white women, or people with European features.
Dumb.
And it's because anime characters...
They look white.
Look like white people.
Right.
Even if you have, like, a dark-skinned anime character, it still just kind of looks like a tanned white person.
Right.
Attack on Titan had a black guy that looked like a black guy.
Onongpo or whatever.
Onyokopon or whatever his name was.
Or I don't know.
And I remember being kind of shocked by it.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, an actual black person.
Right. Well, it's like in the, like, Dragon Ball Z, like, they didn't have any black people.
Well, they had Mr. Popo.
Yeah, Mr.
But
Popo.
he was like a racist depiction of a black man. It's funny because, like, in the Americanized version, they made him pink. They made him blue.
Yeah, he's like a dark blue color.
Yeah.
Right.
But in, like, the actual anime, he's like Vanto black.
Yeah, like,
I
remember
like,
seeing,
big
like,
red lips.
Yeah, I remember seeing pictures of, like, him, like, from, like, the original anime series. I was like, holy shit, like, that's, like, the abyss.
What is it? There's a name for that. There's that specific depiction of a black person there's a name for that. It's something with a G, and I can't remember what it is. But it was the same thing that they did with that Pokemon Jinx.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the Japanese version, she was black and had big red lips. Mm-hmm. In the American version, she was purple and had big red lips.
Dumb.
Gollywog. I think that's what that's called. Let me look that up.
I've never heard of that before.
Let me look up this racist term I just said aloud. Oh, yeah, I was right.
So that's, like, exclusively an Asian thing?
I don't think
or
it's
Japanese?
I don't think it's an Asian thing.
Because I think we have our own flavor over here that we perpetrated for quite a while, but...
Yeah. It says the name Gollywog came to be used as a degrading term for anyone who is not white-skinned, and new origins were suggested for the word. So I guess they don't really know.
So that might not necessarily be exclusive for people of African descent, then.
The Gollywog, also spelled Gollywog or shortened to Golly, is a doll-like character created by cartoonist and author Florence Kate Upton.
And who? Does it say who that is?
It is someone that was born in 1873.
Oh, that's quite a while ago.
There's a whole Wikipedia page. I'm trying to find some like
fine.
succinct information on her. It was a racist woman. That's what it was.
A racist woman.
But yeah, I mean, they used to, back, I guess it was in like the 50s or whatever, they would have, they wouldn't have black people in plays.
Yeah.
They would have white people with blackface on.
Right.
And that was how they painted themselves, with like just as the black paint they could get.
Yeah.
And then they would have big red lips.
Was that, they call it, like, was it minstrel shows? Is that what the name of that was? Or was that earlier?
I'm not sure. That sounds right. In my head, I thought vaudeville, but vaudeville was like Three Stooges is vaudeville.
Yeah. It was so much that stuff is like lost to history. Like I don't really know. Like the entertainment is just completely different now.
It is. It
like,
definitely is.
We're 70 years into the future. Like, things have rapidly changed.
Yeah. And black people have a stranglehold on the music entertainment industry. They have it pretty much locked down, I think. It's funny because, like, have you ever seen that video of, I don't remember who the artist was. I want to say it could have been Chuck Berry. It was much further back than that. It was a black performer, and he was playing a song to like a crowd of white people, and they have video footage of very early video footage of it, and it's such an odd thing because while I'm watching it, I'm just watching him perform,
right,
and like enjoying the music and everything, and then they'll cut to the crowd, and it's all
just
these
mad.
White people just so fucking angry.
They're like, the music's good, but I'm not in a good mood.
And I don't understand why they had to wheel this color fella out on stage. Now family's here. It's such an odd thing to think. I mean, that's just how it was.
Yeah, that's like what a wild time to be alive.
And not that long ago. That's the thing. Really not that long ago. There are people alive who were there for that.
Oh, yeah.
And remember that shit.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I mean, we still have, like, grandparents that were, like, alive when the schools were segregated.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard stories from, our grandmother where she was like, oh, yeah, like, this was the white school.
This was the black school.
And then this was the black school. It's like, that's fucking wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, it was really, it's always really interesting, too, to look back at, like, how they tried to justify, like, how they tried to justify the segregation.
Right.
Like, here's the thing. Anybody listening has noticed this. People of whichever race will automatically kind of naturally segregate themselves.
Right.
You tend to want to be around people who look like you.
Right.
Like, because
there's something like ingrained in your DNA.
well, I think it's got to be a tribal thing, right?
Right.
Like, if you don't know someone, if you've never met this person, the only information you have, the very first information you have is what they look like.
Right.
That's all the information you have to go off of. So if you had like a test, right, where you had like 5 individuals, and it was like you had one white guy, and you presented him with 5 individuals, and all you could do was see them. 4 of them were white, 1 was black, and you asked him which of those 5 people would you want to spend time with,
right?
Or something along those lines. You'd probably choose one of the white people,
right?
But then if you gave him more information, you learned okay, the 4 white people were mass murderers.
Yeah, they're rapists.
Rapists, and the black guy he knocked over a quick trip once.
Yeah,
you're like, okay, well then the black guy,
right?
Because you just don't have, like I said, all the information you have is
what your eyes are telling you.
So all that to say that people will tend to gravitate towards and be around the people that look like them.
Right.
But, when you get to know somebody, you enjoy being around that person,
right.
and you have a friendship with that person,
right.
You kind of stop seeing them as how they are presented to you physically. That's just, that's my friend.
Right.
People like to pretend like it's impossible to make friends with someone who doesn't look like you.
Right.
It's not impossible.
Not the case, at all.
You can make friends with people who like the same things you do, and you get along with. They're nice, and you're nice.
Exactly.
It's
most of the time, if you have a common interest in something, that's how you make friends.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, the best way to make friends is not to be shoved in some, like
forced into like a group.
Into a group like school.
Yeah.
Where you have to be around all these different people.
Bunch of fucking weirdos.
That you have nothing in common with.
Guys eating mustard and wearing fingerless gloves.
Yeah. It's like some of your best friends were probably from the marching band because you had a common interest.
That's where I spent my time.
That's where you spent your time.
Yeah.
Like some of my best friends came from the football team because we all had a common interest.
Yeah.
It's like if you group with people who have common interests, you're, regardless of what their skin color is or what they look like, is like you're probably going to become friends with that person.
Yeah.
Like I had a wide range of people who I was friends with. I
did too, yeah.
That were in the band, people that were on the football team, people who weren't part of any type of like association or
people
anything.
in different grades.
Right.
Yeah.
It really didn't matter.
You know, I think also a surefire way to make friends or whatever is to be a part of something in which you as a group work towards a goal.
Right.
So like, for instance, football, obviously, or, you know, even marching band, we were all working together to try and achieve this thing or whatever the thing might happen to be. So I think this shared struggle builds camaraderie unlike anything else. You know what I mean? Like, you ever have people you've ever worked with and, like, you and this other person get stuck on this project that fucking sucks and you're just struggling with it, struggling to get it done? You kind of build a relationship with that person. Because, like, we know what it's like to be in the suck.
Right. That's essentially my entire time in the military. It was just a struggle fest.
Yeah. Most things are, it would seem.
Was it, they called it during Mao Zedong's Great Leap Forward, where they would like bring all the capitalists forward and kill them? What was it they called that? A struggle session or whatever it was?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's essentially what it was in the military, like the entire time.
It's really interesting to me when people bring up like mass murderers.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to go to Adolf, H-Dog. They always leave out Mao.
Mao and Stalin.
You're like, did fucking Adolf was child's play.
Yeah. I think because they said Mao was like upper estimates is 70.
Yeah, 70 million.
So probably
that's insanity.
Probably put that closer to over 100.
Yeah, the actual number probably much higher.
And then of course like Stalin like killed a bunch of like farmers in Ukraine and essentially starved his people to death.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, along that same line of thinking, that guy that I told you about, that Into the Shadows, he has another channel called Geographics.
Yeah.
And he does, because I think he's from like Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
So, but he does a bunch of, he has a bunch of videos on this channel called Geographics where he talks about like the USSR. And like some of like their failed experiments and stuff,
right?
And
which dissolved the year I was born. Yeah.
So
you're welcome, world. I scared the USR away.
And so he had one where he was talking about the Aral Sea.
Yeah.
And how for like 15 to 20,000 years, like it was somewhere. I think he said. Like in between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, is like this like large. It wasn't a sea. It was like a massive like freshwater lake.
Yeah,
and it was like almost the same size as like Lake Erie. Like what's the biggest?
That's pretty big.
Yeah, it's like this massive freshwater lake. And so like before the USSR like became a thing, like there was a guy that was from Russia, like when they still like a czar and everything. And he came down and he just fucking hated this lake.
Yeah.
Because he's like, there's no purpose for it being here. He's like, I fucking hate it. And eventually, like, he like wrote all these books and all this text and everything.
He must have been autistic.
Yeah. And so the USSR, like years later, were like, yo, fuck that lake.
Yeah.
And they were like, we're gonna essentially turn the entirety of like Central Asia into like farmland. And if you know anything about Central Asia, it isn't farmland.
No, it's arid
all
desert.
Barren fucking desert.
Yeah.
And so they started like diverting this lake into like these farmlands that they were creating and to build to make like cotton fields.
Yeah.
And so what they didn't realize is that over a span of 10 years that the lake had receded. I think it was 1/5 of its original size.
Wow.
And so the original thought is that much like the salt flats, that the salt would dry up, and it fucking didn't.
It just never did.
It just never did. So now there's like these massive like salt storms that will kill people.
Like getting like sanded down.
Yeah, well, people like breathe it in, and they have salt all in their lungs, and they just die. And
the horrible salty death.
And then, like, apparently at some point, the USSR was, like, dumping chemicals into this lake.
Of course they were.
And, like, testing, like, the bubonic plague on, like, rats. And these rats are just running free. And they have outbreaks of the bubonic plague all over. And, they'll have, like, these wild, like temperature swings from, like, negative 40 degrees Celsius, like, all the way up to, like, 40 degrees Celsius.
Jesus.
Within a fucking day.
Jesus, just the amount of, just the severity to which we can fuck this planet is insane.
Well, like the most wild thing is like he has all like these videos and like all this shit that the U.S. is like that was just one of the things that they did. Like that's also not to mention there's like another one where they like were trying to like dig up like natural gas somewhere in Turkmenistan.
Yeah,
and so they like brought this rig out there to like dig it up, and the rig like apparently, like 30 feet below the sand, it was just a pocket of natural gas.
Yeah.
And the rig just fucking fell in and just got swallowed up.
Wow.
And so they were like, well, and it was just like leaking methane gas everywhere. And they're like,
oh, is that where they just lit it on fire and tried to burn it off and it's still burning to this day?
Like decades later.
Yeah.
Just decades later.
You think they like stood around for like a week or so and they're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, well, and the thing is like nobody really has like a good idea like how they lit it on fire.
Yeah.
Because it's the fucking USSR and they like got rid of like almost all of their documents.
Yeah.
And so the story goes that there was just somebody like pulled a pin on like a frag grenade and
chunked
just
it down
threw
this
it down
gas
in
hole.
there, and it like exploded. And he does a really good job because he also talks about Turkmenistan and how like since then, like when they talk about what was the like the graph that he used, it was like how well people are doing in their country.
Yeah.
They're dead fucking last behind North Korea.
Nice. Way to go, everybody.
Apparently, like, to get your driver's license over there,
you talking about like GPD wise?
No, like,
just like the overall health of the country?
Yeah, like humanitarian. Yeah. And they're super fucking poor.
Yeah.
And so he was like going through. He like tells a whole story, and you really need to watch it because he does a really good job. But one of the craziest things that he said was that in order to get your driver's license over there, you have to memorize the leader's autobiography.
What?
You have to memorize the leader's autobiography.
Like the whole thing?
Yes.
Fuck that. I'll walk.
But yeah, he's got like that one. He has another one where he talks about like the Tsar Bomba, and he has like another one where he talks about like the most the place who's had the most nuclear weapons dropped on it.
Yeah.
And it was like in Kazakhstan. It was like 100 kilometers from like a fucking city. They were just like blowing up fucking bombs all the time, and people were eventually like, "Man, that's just that's what happens."
They just do that over there. That's where they blow up the nukes.
And then he's got another one that you need to check out. It's on the Ryonggang, which is this massive like it's like this 99-story tall hotel that got built in North Korea that they just never finished. And essentially it cost so much fucking money to build this thing that essentially it just sent their country into a fucking tailspin. And that's when they started having like all these issues with like food and like all this stuff. And then like because it's in Pyongyang, which is like the capital city of North Korea.
Right, yeah.
And he was saying how like kids had started from like the rural areas were going into the city to like try to find food or like shelter, and most of them were like sleeping outside. Mm-hmm. Most of them were arrested and sent to labor camps. Some of them just disappeared.
Oh.
So, and nobody had food. So what do you think happened to them?
If I had to guess, they became somebody's poopy.
Yeah. They became a manwich for someone.
Manwich.
So, but yeah, he's got all these really cool like videos that he does, and it's about stories that nobody really talks about these stories. So it's like interesting tidbits in history that I would have never known about.
Right,
I didn't know anything about the Aral Sea.
Yeah, me either. Never even heard of that.
Yeah.
North Korea is interesting because, like, they're an interesting case because the whole world knows what's going on with them, but North Korea thinks that they don't.
Right.
Like, have you ever seen, like, where people will go and visit North Korea and, like, they'll only, like, take you, like, through this little, like, fake part of the city that they have where it looks like there's people shopping and it looks like there's food and stuff like that, and it's all, like, sets.
Yeah.
Like, they won't let you go into any of these stores.
Right.
It's like the fucking Truman Show.
Yeah.
Like, everybody walking around is like a paid actor.
Yeah, and you have, like, an armed guard with you the whole time.
Yeah. Now, I was telling Mary, because we were talking about, like, you know, traveling to different places, and we were talking about how, you know, we would like to go back to Italy, but it's like, you know, I don't know if I really want to go over that direction for a while with, like, you know, 2 different holy wars happening on either side. But I was talking about, like, people will go to fucking, like, North Korea. Like, Americans will go over there.
That's fucking wild.
And, like, people will go to Afghanistan and just, like, hang out with the fucking Taliban. They'll go, I mean, why?
No.
And I was telling her, I was like, you know, when you go to North Korea, they give you, like, their government gives you, like, a itinerary. This is what you're going to do while you're here, and then you're leaving.
Right.
And it was like, because they don't want you wandering off
and,
like, seeing the actual state of this place.
Right.
And I was like, there was that guy, Otto Warmbier, who went over there, and he's tried to steal something from his hotel room.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say it was like a banner or something like that, and I guess they found it in his bag. They did, like, a bag check. So I mean,
I'd have left stuff. I mean, I'd be like, here's stuff that I have. Like, please
like
let me leave.
Like a swap.
I would just, I wouldn't. I'm like, I don't have a bag.
Yeah,
it's just me.
Well, you know, they did, like, they put him on trial, a North Korean trial, where, you know, he doesn't speak Korean, and they just yelled at him for, like, an hour, and then they sentenced him to 15 years of hard labor. And it was a big thing because Donald Trump actually got him released from North Korea, and they sent him back to us brain dead. So, you know, I mean, they fucked him up.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, I'm going to do the Louis C.K. bit. Of course, it's terrible that they put you in a hard labor camp and, you know, probably beat you and starved you and caused you to go brain dead. However, but maybe, you shouldn't have tried to steal things in North Korea.
But maybe you shouldn't have been over there in the first place.
Maybe you shouldn't have went to North Korea at all. Like you didn't know what was going on over there.
I'd be like, oh, yes, the beautiful city of Pyongyang. I think that...
Yeah, it's all this gray and dirt.
Yeah.
How beautiful.
Did you see where Kim Jong-il was, like, crying because, like, the women in North Korea are refusing to have children, and it's slowly killing their population?
Was it that they're refusing or they're not able to? Because I read that they weren't able to.
I'd read that they're refusing to.
Really?
Yeah. So it sounds like there's conflicting stories.
Well, number one, why would you want to bring a child into that?
Yeah, why would you want to have a kid?
Yeah. Also, I feel like starving makes it hard to carry a child.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I guess they were saying even not in, like, the rural areas, but, like, in the city where I guess people are better off, like, as long as you're part of the party.
Right,
like, even there, like, I'm not
like, if you're military or whatever.
I'm still not having children.
Yeah. Well, you know, because they'll do that generational punishment shit.
No. Yeah, it's like if you get caught, like, stealing food rations, like, you get punished, and 3 generations down also get put into the hard labor camp.
Yeah.
It's like, so why would you have a fucking kid?
Yeah. Why would you subject them to that?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you crying for, dude? Like, what do you think, like, these policies that you've enacted, you think that that's going to make people like, yeah, I'd like to bring a kid into this?
Well, I mean, you know, that family, the Un family, you know, they think that they are, like, gods. They think that they are, like, you know, deities.
No.
They genuinely think that. So he is probably not concerned with any of the kind of humanitarian issues.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly he's not.
No.
He's only concerned with getting what he wants.
Until there's like 10 people left in his country. And somebody just walks in and goes, I think I'll have this country now.
Yeah. It would probably be Russia.
Yeah.
I'll
probably
take
China.
Or you think China?
Oh, yeah.
I think China and Russia might fight over it.
You think so?
I think so.
I don't know. It depends because...
They have an uneasy alliance.
Yeah. I guess it depends. Well, it would be easier for China to get to it than would be Russia, because Russia would have to go through Siberia in order to get to. Because, like, what people like tend to forget about Russia is like all of Russia's population is right there on that eastern border.
Yeah, they're not way up north in the tundra.
And really, it's even not even in the southern eastern border of where Russia's at, because that's all like Kazakhstan and desert and shit. Like, it's all really like eastern. Or excuse me, it's like Western Russia is like where all of the population is. It's like nobody's out in like fucking bumfuck nowhere.
No.
It's like there might be like some tribes of like
some uncontacted like Russian tribe.
Right.
That like they like trade skins with Mongolian tribes. Have no clue what's going on in the world.
But like all the population lives like in like Moscow and St. Petersburg and like right there on like the eastern portion of Europe.
Right.
Whereas like China, like they still have like some cities and stuff like in northern China.
Yeah.
It would probably be easier to launch an invasion to get into North Korea.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of times I think that people don't consider the geography involved with like relationships between nations.
Right.
Right. So, like, you think of, like, people have always heard, like, Switzerland is, you know, neutral. How can Switzerland stay neutral? They're right in the middle of all the shit that goes on in Europe.
Because they're in between a bunch of fucking
I was like, because
mountains.
it's hard to get to Switzerland.
Right.
It's like, if you wanted to invade Switzerland, it would be a pain in the ass to get all that equipment in there, just to get the people in there.
Right.
Because they're surrounded by, like, thousands of feet high mountains all around them.
Right.
They're just down in this little pocket.
Right.
So that's why nobody bothers them.
Right. It's like that's one of the reasons why Adolf never invaded Switzerland.
Yeah.
He couldn't fucking get to
He
it.
just couldn't get there.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck it, whatever, leave
They're like, fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you. Come over that mountain.
Yeah.
How dare you.
It's like, what's the...
Plus they have everybody's money.
Yeah. It's like, what's that Monty Python thing where it's like the guy stand up on top of the fucking...
Oh, yeah. It was like your mother was a dog and your father smelled of elderberries. Yeah. It was a French guy, wasn't it? Yeah. I don't know. There are places in this world that I would not visit.
No.
All that to say.
Well, it's like that's one of the reasons why it would be incredibly difficult. Switzerland would be very hard to invade, and the U.S. would be fairly hard to invade because there's two massive seas or oceans.
Well, depending on who you ask, we're currently getting invaded.
Well, yeah. Well, there's other ways around that.
The southern border is wide the fuck open.
Yeah, well.
That situation is completely out of control.
But, like, if you wanted to, like, launch, like, a military attack from either way.
Oh, yeah. From the coast,
like,
it's not happening.
Yeah, like, there's mountain ranges on both sides,
Yeah.
and then this vast, like, nothingness.
You would just
in the middle.
smash against a wall.
Yeah.
That's all that would happen. I think Canada could do it.
They're not going to.
I mean, they're going to,
Yeah.
but they could.
Yeah.
They'd have to get if they came down through. Obviously, they would come down through like Montana.
Yeah.
That's where they would come through.
Like Saskatchewan.
Yeah, somewhere up there. But then you wind up in like the heartland of America.
Yeah.
Where it's like a bunch of farmers and like rednecks and like
Nuclear missile silos.
So it'd be like Far Cry 5.
Yeah.
Like that's what they would be fighting against.
It's like, well, there's really nobody around.
Yeah.
And like their entire military has come down through here. I think we'll just launch a nuke from Colorado and just be done with it.
We won't lose anyone.
Yeah. Unless they just came like set right on top of like Yellowstone. They're like, go ahead and fire that nuke.
Yeah. Like, oh, come on. That's not fair. Come on, guys. Speaking of Yellowstone, I had watched it was a movie with it was a disaster movie. It's what made me think about it. with Gerard Butler called Greenland, I think it was called.
I've never seen that one before.
It's like a comet movie. Yeah, where like the Earth.
Oh, yes.
The Earth keeps getting hit by comets or whatever.
Yes. Quite indeed.
And then they showed, like, there was like the final one. Of course, they called it like the Planet Killer or whatever.
Ooh.
And like they showed it at the very end of the movie. It hits the Earth, and I guess it's implied that everyone on Earth died. But the size of the comet that hit the planet was like maybe a quarter of the size of the moon.
Yeah.
And all it did was make a big explosion that encircled the Earth. I was like, no, if something like that hit this planet, it would punch through this planet.
Right.
I was like, it wouldn't hit and explode.
No.
It would be total, what they call it, total planetary destruction.
Right.
I mean, and I got to reading stuff about comets and like
No.
what they call rogue planets.
No.
Like there are celestial bodies the size of this Earth and larger, solid celestial bodies traveling through space at ludicrous speeds, like from the Big Bang or whatever.
Right.
And it's like one could come through our neighborhood, and we would never even fucking know that it happened. We just hear 1 minute and gone the next.
Nope.
And it was like that, and
I was like, wasn't there was like an asteroid that was like headed towards Earth, and they didn't know until like 5 minutes before. They're like, oh, fuck.
I know which one you're talking about, yeah.
I mean, it was like millions of miles away, but comparatively, that's very close.
Yeah, it got real close to us. And we didn't even know it was coming until it had passed us. We're like, because they saw it as it was leaving. They're like, wait a second, where did he come from?
What is that?
Could you imagine, like, being some astronomer and, like, just, like, looking through your telescope and you're doing all your little calculations just to find out, like, this planet, this fucking planet-sized asteroid is hurtling towards the Earth.
Yeah.
And we have zero capability of diverting it or destroying it or anything. There was then they launched a mission not long ago, DART, I think it was called, where they were testing out whether or not it would even be possible to divert the course of a comet or an asteroid from Earth, like with a rocket. And I know that they hit it.
No,
but I don't know if we ever found out, like, if they made enough of a change that it
I would imagine that the payload would have to be fucking massive.
Well, I think,
depending upon the size of.
Yeah, I think that what it is, I think the way and on the off chance that there's an astronomer listening to this, I doubt that there is, but feel free to correct us if we're wrong. So space is very, very large, and they can detect things that are very far away, and through the magic of math, they can determine whether or not that thing is headed towards us.
No.
I mean, they can predict down to the mile,
right, like
how close this thing is going to get. Like there was one that they knew was going to pass between us and the moon not long ago, and if they have enough of a heads up, if it's moving slowly enough, it's coming from far enough away, they can determine exactly where it's going to go, because there's nothing in space to divert its course.
Right.
There's no air resistance. There's no, on the off chance it gets close enough to some.
This is a vacuum.
Some planetary body, and its gravity can kind of direct it one way or another. But, if it's far enough away, they can launch something at it and determine. If they don't have to like completely make it go 90 degrees the other direction.
Right.
They
just enough.
Just a nudge.
Yeah.
So that by the time it gets past us, it's, much further away.
Right.
But it's cool that we had that capability to do
they
that.
wouldn't have to like probably hit it with like the Tsar Bomba.
Yeah. No, because then you would have
explode into 1,000 pieces.
Yeah, then you just have a bunch of 1 mile long comets rather than a 100 mile long one.
You just get peppered.
Like bird shot. And I think that was why the Planetary Defense Force, that's what that is.
No.
They are working up their ability to be able to neutralize threats to the planet.
I'd read something that was talking about how they've got some type of like mining expedition that they're mining expedition that they've launched into space, which is essentially just these massive like tungsten rods.
Oh, rods from God?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh, it's for mining. I'm like, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's just like, it has the same like payload that like
a nuclear bomb,
a hydrogen bomb would
yeah.
have, but just with no fallout.
Yeah. So they take away like the, accidental radiation poisoning that, spreads with the wind over half the planet.
Right.
Yeah, because they were talking about, did they actually launch that satellite? Because last I heard, there was like some rigmarole about whether or not it violates the
Geneva Convention.
Is it the Geneva Convention?
It might not be Geneva.
There was something that was like nobody can put a weapon in space.
Right.
And a bunch of people signed it. I think everybody except North Korea signed it.
Yeah.
It was a big surprise.
Yeah. And they were like, that's not a weapon.
Yeah, it's not a weapon. It's for mining. Yeah. But they were like, we could wipe out whole mountains with this thing.
Who's to say if they were like, you can't do that, and they went, okay.
All right, I guess we won't.
Send it up there anyway.
Like, oh, well, we already have one up there.
Oopsie.
Yeah. We figured we'd ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. I mean, like, with the war going on over in Israel and everything, they were talking about... so they have that defense system called Iron Dome, where if somebody launches a rocket, this defense system can launch an interceptor rocket to go up and blow up that rocket. So, and I think it's like 99% accurate, or like it works like 99% of the time.
No, which I think they also have phalanx guns like underneath those in case one gets through.
But then they also have what they call Iron Beam. Have you heard about Iron Beam?
Mm-mm.
It is a short-range directed energy weapon that can just laser rockets out of the sky.
Well, I know that the U.S. has that where they put on some ships to like burn through like engines on like outbound, like outboard like motors.
Yeah, but this is like a little thing that they can carry with them.
No,
so it's much smaller, and you just set it up wherever you are, and it'll just zap shit out of the sky for you.
Nice to see our tax money going towards.
Yeah, for real. Defending somebody else's border.
You imagine like having that on our southern border and just like zapping all these.
Zapping the illegal immigrant? It's like when mosquitoes fly into that blue thing. Somebody's sitting out on their porch listening to it. It's fucked up.
It's like, that sounds like freedom right there.
Oh boy. But it was leading a lot of conspiracy theorists to determine that the Jewish space laser conspiracy was real. And you know what? There's so many conspiracy theories that have turned out to be true that I don't even know, like, if I can really say that isn't a thing. At
this point, I just assume, I'm like, until proven otherwise, I'm going to have to go with it. It's probably true.
Yeah. I used to think that it was probably false. Now I think everything's probably true.
Well, it's like, as soon as, like, and people can say what they want to about him. I know he's a fucking nutbag. But when Alex Jones released that video footage of all those people worshiping that owl statue thing.
Yeah, Moloch.
I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, they're all congressmen and senators and presidents. And
well, do you remember what those senators said when that came out? They said they were joking. That it was all a big joke.
Now, why are you all there doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, they were all out in the woods worshiping an owl statue with like goat heads on and like...
No, like out in like the middle, like Northern California.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is going on?
And then you'll see them do that, what they call spirit cooking.
It was supposed to like be like in the form of like a child or something. And they like light it on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, Lady Gaga was there at that. Lots of politicians were there at that.
Like, what the fuck? What the fuck is going on?
The fuck is happening?
Yeah.
What the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
It's like I shared that Norm Macdonald quote on Facebook not long ago.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, yeah, call me cynical, but I don't think that these Moloch worshipping pedophiles have our best interest at heart. R.I.P. Norm Macdonald. I wish that he had lived to see this current conflict
Oh, yeah.
in Israel, because he would have a lot of funny things to say about it.
No. Well, that's what I mean. I had read a story that was talking about who's the president over there? Netanyahu. Is that what his name is? How he had made a statement, and apparently, like, this story has been running a couple of the papers over there in Israel, where essentially he stated, he was like, in order for us to continue to not have to come to a two-state solution, we need to support Hamas.
Really?
Yeah. So his administration has
They
been
need that
actively
conflict.
has been actively supporting Hamas,
Right.
in order for them to continue to have the conflict,
So that they can have
so
their
that
war
They can have their war.
and get rid of Palestine.
Yeah. So
And they had that whole landmass to themselves.
and apparently Netanyahu was like on the outs before October 7th happened.
Really?
Like people were not happy with his administration.
Really?
Like at all. And so this kind of like galvanized that entire community.
Yeah. I know there was a lot of people from the get-go who thought that it was very fishy that Hamas was able to make it into...
Oh yeah, I mean, there's conspiracy theories that
into
that
southern
they
Israel.
knew that his administration knew it was going to happen,
Right.
And they just let it happen.
Well, Saudi Arabia came out and said that they warned him. They said,
Right.
"Son, we have proof that they're getting ready to do something."
Right, because Saudi Arabia, and from what I understand, Saudi Arabia and Israel were getting ready to sign essentially a peace treaty.
Yeah.
And so when Hamas attacked, they knew that Israel was going to attack
Yeah.
Hamas back and kill lots of
Innocent civilians.
civilians, which essentially was going to force Saudi Arabia's hand to be like, we can't.
Yeah.
The
whole rest of the Arab world is
Yeah.
looking at us right now. We can't make peace with you while you're
Right.
doing this. Yeah. It's a tricky thing.
No.
It's a very tricky thing. And people have changed the meaning of the word anti-Semitism in the wake of all this.
Right.
Criticizing the government of Israel is not anti-Semitism.
No, it's not saying I hate the Jews.
Yeah, that's not what I say. It's okay for me to say that you shouldn't drop bombs on civilians.
Right.
It's okay for me to say that because you shouldn't do that.
No. Well,
Same as how Hamas shouldn't have come and killed your civilians.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's be like anybody else that said, I don't think that the U.S. should be fighting all these foreign wars and toppling governments.
Yeah. While we are literally falling apart over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that's not American citizen. That's anti-American government
Yeah.
or anti-foreign policy from America. So
I'm glad that Henry Kissinger didn't get to see war with Iran.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
He died before it ever happened.
Yeah, rest in piss.
Yeah. That fucking guy. My God.
Fucking piece of shit.
You want to talk about just the fucking
It's a
bloodthirsty,
fucking piece
evil
of shit.
old man. There was a meme that was that used to go around all the time. That was it was the Grim Reaper standing in a claw machine, and whenever somebody died,
Yeah.
he would say, "Oh, so and so, I was hoping for Henry Kissinger."
Yeah.
And then when Henry Kissinger finally died, he goes, "Fuck, finally! All right, who's next?"
Yeah, I saw one where somebody posted the same one, but he was like, "Oh, he was stuck to the bottom with all the blood."
Oh man, I mean, he was the quintessential bloodthirsty politician.
Oh yeah.
He would just the shit that he would just come right out and
yeah.
say, like, what was it he said about Iran, about how we have to go to war with them because they don't deserve it. What was it he said?
Oh shit, I don't remember the quote. I know which one you're talking about though. Essentially, his position was that we needed to go to war with Iran. Was it because they were the power in the region, or? Oh,
It was something
shit.
like that.
Yeah.
He had a hate boner for anything east of the Atlantic Ocean.
I mean, he was the person that essentially said that we need to bomb Cambodia and.
Yeah. How many was it? What was it? We dropped 12 million tons.
Yeah, something like that.
12 million tons of
fucking
bombs.
absurd.
Yeah. I found this quote from him, and he said, "It's a pity both sides can't lose," and that was in reference to the Iran and Iraq war in 1980.
No. It's like, he's got a real piece of shit fucking quote about U.S. service members.
He was just a fucking warhound. Every time that guy opened his mouth, I just couldn't fucking believe what he was saying.
So this is a direct quote from old Henry. He said, "Military men are dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns for foreign policy."
He just came out and said it.
Yeah.
He just came out and said it.
Came out and fucking said it.
Everyone else, they tiptoe around it.
Yeah.
They have the good grace to at least lie to our faces about what it is. He just came out and fucking said it.
Yeah. He's like, "This is how we all feel about you."
Yeah. And then, who was it? They recently had some kind of committee hearing in the Senate. And I don't think it wasn't McCarthy, it was somebody else. Somebody said that, if we can't allocate funds to Ukraine, we're going to send your uncles, cousins, and brothers over there to die to fight Russian soldiers.
That was SecDef. Secretary of Defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
I just don't understand. No one has been able to explain to me yet why that war, why we have to fund that war. Why? What does it do for us?
Well, here's the thing, is that people are fucking waking up, and they're like, "We're not fighting your fucking wars for you anymore."
Yeah. Oh, did you see that poll about when they asked everybody if they would go and fight in the military? No. Like 70% of people polled said no.
No.
Because I don't want to go fucking die for Ukraine.
No.
I don't want to go fucking die for Israel.
Yeah, now it'd be different like if you had a proven track record of not like fucking just killing people so that you can continue to push your propaganda on everyone.
Or at the very least supporting the troops when they came back home. Yeah.
Or it's like, I don't know, not supporting the Mujahideen and then turning around and getting into a direct conflict with Osama bin Laden, who essentially did the exact same fucking thing to us that the CIA taught him to fucking do.
Yeah.
Imagine that would be the case, that he would do the thing that we taught him to do.
So we never thought our golem would turn on us.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like shit like, I think what it is like they're seeing power slip away, and they're
panicking.
They're panicking.
Yeah,
they're doing everything that they can to try to hold on to power.
Yeah,
there's like the American people are fucking tired.
Yeah,
we're tired, and it's like one of the nice things about the internet is that information dissemination has become so readily available, especially for stuff like foreign conflict. It's like the whole thing with like them essentially putting out war propaganda for Israel and Hamas. It's like did you see the one where like that lady goes and like gets in a ditch and she acts like they just had like a bomb go off and there's like a guy on a bicycle rides by.
Like just riding by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is this? What is this?
It kind of seems like I don't know if I'm getting better at spotting it or if they're getting worse at making it.
No.
The propaganda, I mean. Because I feel like every third thing I see,
very lazy.
I'm like, this is like a horrible attempt at propaganda.
Yeah.
Like, this is terrible.
Yeah, I don't really know what the fuck it is that they're doing. And there's, in especially too, it's like, especially like a lot of like former military members, we don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
It's like, and if you have former military members that are coming out of the military,
right,
and essentially being like, we don't need to fucking be over there.
Right, yeah. I was over there. Let me tell you, we don't need to be there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's like, you know what? If they want to fight each other and blow each other up, that's none of my fucking business.
Yeah.
I honestly don't fucking care. We should probably be taking care of the people here at home.
Over here. People are starving over here.
Yeah.
You know, I saw this thing the other day that was it was a letter that they had sent out to people who had been previously either discharged or denied entry into the service because of their vaccination status, COVID-19 vaccination status. Mm-hmm. And it basically amounted to, we're sorry that we kicked you out of the military because you wouldn't get the vaccine. And we're sorry that we wouldn't let you in, but we need bodies in the grinder, so would you please sign up?
Yeah.
You have to go read the letter because it is such a begrudging apology.
Oh, yeah. They don't really mean it.
No, they don't mean it at all.
If they weren't struggling to find people right now, they wouldn't give a fuck about you.
They need you to come over and slit your wrist and bleed into the vat. That's what they need. That's all they need you for. Yeah.
Well, it's sort of like, what was it I saw? Apparently they're giving out like $50,000 enlistment bonuses now.
Wow.
It's like, why do you think they're doing that?
Yeah.
Because nobody's fucking signing up. It's like I think they said that the U.S. Army is going to miss their recruitment mark by like 40%.
Wowie.
Yeah, wowie zowie, right?
Wowie zowie.
Yeah, and I think I know when I came in, their recruitment mark was 80,000 people a year.
Yeah.
Just because the Army essentially acts as an occupying force. Mm-hmm. Like they go in after essentially the Marines, the Air Force and the Navy bomb the fuck out of whatever it is. The Marines come in and they kill.
They clean up.
Yeah, they kill everybody that's left. And then you have the Army come in and they just sit there.
Yep.
That's essentially what happens.
This is ours now.
Right. And then essentially at that point you have the Navy and the Air Force still providing like air support for like bombings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's why the Army has to be so fucking big.
Yeah.
It's because they act as an occupying force.
I remember when I was younger that there was a fervent desire in a lot of young men to...
After 9/11, oh yeah. I
mean, even before.
No.
I think, people they wanted to join the military, and they held it in such high regard, and they... I think that there was a point where the military did have some noble intention.
Oh, yeah.
I think that it got infiltrated by self-serving individuals who only saw it as a tool to justify or a tool to further their own
promotions
agenda. And it became very political and, just this power-hungry thing. The CIA is to blame for a whole lot of it.
We could essentially blame the CIA for everything wrong that has ever fucking happened in the United States since its inception.
And abroad.
Yes, since its fucking inception.
Like, the CIA has destabilized so many governments that otherwise would have been totally fine.
No.
You can kind of directly relate the migrant crisis in Europe to the CIA overthrowing Gaddafi. If you really follow it, if you follow the threads far enough, because Gaddafi, he threatened the U.S. dollar having dominance in Africa. Right. He was a threat to that, and we just couldn't fucking have that, So they,
it's almost like every time the CIA does something, they go whoopsie,
whoopsie. Whoops, oops, my bad, oops. I keep ruining everything. And murdering people, torturing people. Can't believe none of this is working out.
It's almost as if this doesn't fucking work.
Oh, man.
Well, I think another thing is, too, is like you have so much of that defense contract or the defense budget is so fucking large. It's like the military ain't getting a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's like I've seen some of the military stuff.
Yeah.
It's fucking old.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't replaced it yet.
We're still working with that Cold War era shit.
It's going somewhere.
Yeah.
I think I know where it might be going.
Into somebody's pocket.
Into somebody's pocket. It's probably going into like fucking budgets that are sealed.
Yeah. Or it's being laundered through Ukraine.
Oh.
What a novel concept.
Yeah, just everybody is just fucking. We're tired.
Yeah,
we know that if that is how much has been like over $200 billion now that they've spent in Ukraine, where it's just like
with nothing to show for it.
Yeah, it was like, what do we have to show for this?
Right.
It's like that money could have been spent like trying to fix shit over here.
Right.
And instead we're just fucking sending it. It's like all this money that comes out of my fucking paycheck every 2 weeks when I get fucking paid.
Yeah.
Not to mention not to mention my fucking property taxes and the taxes that I pay on my bills and the taxes that I pay when I buy groceries.
Yeah.
And the taxes that I pay
when I buy gas.
And on my gas.
I stare at that red number and
the hatred grows.
It's just the color of blood. Because all it's funding is the death of innocent people.
Yeah.
And I just have to sit there and would be proud of it. It's fucking, oh yeah, this nation is wonderful. We're doing a great job. You know,
like, what's the meme that they show where it's like some like bomber flying over and it's like Hamas is about to find out why we don't have free healthcare?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. You know, I'm very grateful to live in this country.
Oh, compared to the rest of the world?
Compared to the rest of the world?
Yeah.
I mean, we're definitely headed down a dark path, and we are regressing, and things are getting worse, and there's no end in sight. All that is true. But as of this moment, and for the majority of, for the entirety of my life that I've been here, I'm very blessed and very lucky to be in this country.
Right.
As are the rest of you listening to this.
Well, I think enough people are starting to be like, this isn't fucking working.
Yeah.
We have to change course.
Well,
we cannot continue down this path.
Yeah. That was my next thing but you have to understand that we are not infallible.
Right.
And we are deeply, deeply flawed. And the politicians, people in D.C. are actively working against you.
No.
They are working against you to serve themselves. It's like I said before, when all this shit comes crumbling down and the entire American infrastructure just comes to a screeching halt and the whole thing just goes to shit.
No.
Do you think that those people are going to stay here and try and help out and fix and rebuild? No, they're leaving.
Well,
they're going to whatever other country they've already got their backup plan.
Right.
They're going over there with all their millions and billions, and they're going to live lavishly, and then they're going to fucking die in gluttony.
Right.
While the rest of us starve to death.
Yep.
That's what's going to happen. And I don't know if we can vote our way out of it. I don't know that we can. But you have to try at least.
It's like, if it gets too bad, hopefully I can get the hell out of here and go live in Argentina. Hopefully at that point, Javier is still in power.
Yeah, man, I don't even know. It sucks to be so disenfranchised with the whole thing, but at the same time, it's like you need to be paying attention to what's going on.
Well, it's like, I think one of the reasons why it seems like Marxism has made it so abundantly like prevalent in almost every society across the world at this point. Like, that seems to be like the prevailing like school of thought.
Right.
Is that it's the oppressed versus the oppressor.
Yeah.
Right. And the only way to fix this is through like resistance, right?
And you can put a lot of things under the umbrella of the word resistance.
Right.
Such as terrorist attacks on innocent people.
Well, and it's like you see that kind of stuff, and unfortunately, I see a lot of people that are not Marxists that are reverting to Marxist tactics in order to fight the Marxists.
Yeah.
It's like all these people that are like, well, I'm the victim now. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You cannot do it. You can't, especially a lot of white people are doing that now.
Yes. Yep.
Where they're like, well, I'm the victim. It's like you can't play that game.
Yeah.
You cannot play that game because it doesn't help at all.
The victim tournament. You can't be a part of that.
You cannot be in the victim Olympics. That's not how this fucking works. Yeah. It's like you have to stand by your morals and convictions in order to win this fight. It's like you can't fight them on their fucking terms.
No.
Because all it is you're just giving them more fucking fire.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's just a big roundabout.
Right.
It's like, cause, eventually, like, this person will then become the victim, and then they have to fight the oppression. Then the oppressor becomes the victim, and then the oppressor, and then that victim has to fight the oppression.
And we just keep a big going down and down and down.
Right,
and down.
And you just swirl down the fucking drain.
Yeah. It's really the whole oppressor versus oppressed thing. It gives people an avenue to justify
their bad behavior. Right.
And you as let me explain something to you. You as a white woman in a prestigious college on a scholarship that you were given because of your pussy.
Yep.
You are not a victim.
No.
You are not oppressed.
No.
In any meaningful manner of the word. somebody who's living under an authoritarian regime in like some like African country
Or North Korea.
or somewhere in South America, that's an oppressed person.
Right.
That's why it's so funny to me whenever you take like these college liberals and you have them talk to a Cuban.
No.
They're fucking brain fries.
Yeah, Cubans cannot fucking stand communism.
It's so funny.
Well, they've seen like horrors.
Yeah. They've seen the absolute worst of what it can be.
Right.
There was a guy that I worked with at my previous job. Some of the folks listening will know who I'm talking about. He's an African American man, but he's from Cuba.
No.
And he was also he was an Army Ranger. So he's very outspoken against leftism
No.
and socialism and all that stuff like that.
No.
And it's funny because I worked very closely with him, and it was funny because I would purposefully get him riled up. Like I would say, I would like ask him about his opinion on something. Like, oh man, did you see where like such and such college did this?
Yeah.
And he would fly off the handle, and he would just think it was funny because he spoke English. And he would get so mad he would like start speaking Spanish. Yeah. I was like, man, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, bring it back down. But it was so funny just to get him going about shit like that.
Right. Well, I mean,
because he lived it. He saw people that he cared about die.
Right.
Because of it.
Right. Because of mismanagement of funds and
that's not to say that in a capitalist society it's free of any kind of blame when it comes to mismanagement of funds. But
there's plenty of instances where like large corporations have fucked over like local populations
pretty constantly.
Pretty consistently.
Yeah.
It's like, but I think comparative, like the horrors.
Yeah.
Of like
the horrors are pretty slim compared to
unchecked government power. Yeah. Like you see, like what happened with like fascist Nazi Germany and the USSR and China and North Vietnam and North Korea and Turkmenistan and Iran and Saudi Arabia and.
I was just thinking to myself, it's very interesting that you. Almost all those countries that you named off, specifically Nazi Germany, were very classist.
Yes.
Very almost like a caste system, which India still has, by the way.
No.
A lot of people there are people who praise Nazi Germany for the economical standpoint.
Oh, the boom that they had?
Well, I mean, that was a direct cause of plundering the neighboring nations.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. That's what that was.
Your shit is now my shit.
Yeah. But they were like, oh, everybody in Nazi Germany was like so prosperous, and they were living under like, some of the best like economic times that they had. And I was like, not everybody.
No.
There was definitely an elite class, and there was a much larger lower class. Well, there's almost no middle class in Nazi Germany. Almost none.
Well, I mean, and a lot of people don't talk about like what led up to Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Like everybody's like, oh, and then Hitler just magically appeared out of the abyss.
He came out of the ground like the Uruk-hai. Like he came out like a muddy membrane out of like a hole.
It's like after the Treaty of Versailles, was that the one after World War I? Yeah. Essentially, like the entire world was like, yo, fuck Germany. We're going to fuck you up.
Yeah.
And
you got to pay for this whole
bitch. You're going to have to pay for this whole fucking war.
Yeah.
And essentially, Hitler came and he did some pretty horrific fucking shit. Mm-hmm. It's like, but he did drag them up out of whatever, because, I mean, there's pictures of, like, just bricks of money.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not enough to buy bread.
Their money was worthless.
Yeah, their money was worthless. Like, kids are, like, outside, like, tearing it up and lighting it on fire, and, like, whatever was, like, the franc was, no, that's French. It might have been a German franc.
I think franc is right, yeah.
So, but yeah, like, before that, like, you couldn't buy anything with that fucking money. You couldn't do anything with it.
Right.
It's like, so these people are just, and then you have somebody come in, it's like, I'm going to fix this.
And then they do fix it.
And then they fix it, and you become like a world superpower.
Yeah.
They're going to do whatever the fuck it is that guy asked them to fucking do.
and turn a blind eye to whatever it is.
It's like, you want to round up these Jews?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
You put food in my family's belly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, compared to like what they were, squalor that they were living in, like, it was bad. It was
bad.
Real fucking bad for them for quite a fucking long time.
Hitler and World War II as a whole, I feel, could have been avoided if they were just a touch more humanitarian in the way that they tried to, specifically the French, tried to, bring it into the First World War.
Right.
There's a movie. Have you ever seen All Quiet on the Western Front?
I am like 3/4 of that movie. I'm done with that. The other night I was trying to watch it.
Yeah.
And I guess Autumn was awake.
Yeah.
And there was like a part where like that they bombed that bunker.
Yeah.
And there's like a dead guy. And she goes, "What's wrong with that guy?" I'm like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
I was like, well, we're going to turn that now.
Yeah. It's a pretty intense movie. It's from the Germans' perspective of World War I, which is interesting because I don't feel like that I've ever seen anything tell that side of the story. But it does a good job of really kind of showing how it's hard to say unfair because they did start it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it was Austrians.
Yeah.
Teenagers actually kicked off the whole thing when they
Franz Ferdinand,
when
right?
they assassinated Franz Ferdinand. I mean, you can keep pointing, you can keep going back and say, well, this because of that, this because of that. But the French they just wouldn't work with the Germans at the end of the war when they were trying to vie for peace. They would not work with them. They would not give them any ground. And I understand that they were upset. They had every right to be upset.
Right.
But it's like at the same time, we're trying to vie for peace, and you have to be a participant in that.
Right.
If you're going to be a participant in the belligerency, you have to be a participant in the peace as well.
Right. Well, it's like, what do you think is going to happen when a generation next has all this pent-up rage against you?
Yeah.
You don't think they're going to come fuck you up?
Yeah.
That's exactly what they fucking
That's exactly what they did.
They came over there.
Steamrolled your ass.
They came over there. They stomped a fucking mud hole in your ass. It's like,
they're like, I do not understand why they do this to us. Oh.
And they came over and they fucked you up.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of leftover and pent up rage from what happened with that Treaty of Versailles.
And that does not excuse Nazi Germany in any way. It doesn't, but I understand why it happened.
Yeah, I'm telling, like, if somebody was to come over, like, say Canada, like, there was, like, the U.S., like, attacked somebody, and we lost.
Yeah.
And then, like, Canada was like, yo, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
You owe us 50% of your GDP from now on.
Yeah. From now until the end of time.
Yeah. And then, like, a fucking candidate comes up and he's like, yo, fuck those Canucks.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
We're going to fuck them up.
Those poutine-eating motherfuckers.
Those poutine-eating motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And then, like, we, like, execute all the Canadians that have moved into the U.S. And, like, we send them off to, like hard labor camps or something, like in Nebraska.
Yeah.
It's like, and you don't think that a generation of fucking U.S. citizens, like, aren't going to, like, with fervor, going to go up there and fuck them up.
Who's starved because of the Canadians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aren't going to go up there and fuck them up.
Yeah. Going to go do some heinous shit to them.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, of course, they see Nazi Germany and World War II and everything is kind of like this cautionary tale of nationalism, when I really don't think that's the case. I think that World War II and Nazi Germany is a cautionary tale of not trying to broker peace.
Right. It certainly gets overlooked.
And generational resentment.
Right.
I mean, the United States has whipped up a whole lot of bad blood with a whole lot of different nations.
Oh, yeah.
Because not once have we ever tried to broker a peace.
No.
We've only ever came in,
toppled their government,
tried to install some shit that didn't work, and then left.
Right.
And we just left them
to clean it up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you remember, I think it was like 2003 when Ron Paul was running for was running for president.
Good old Ron Paul.
And he got booed at one of the Republican debates because he essentially said, he's like, why do you think they hate us so much?
Yeah.
He's like, they don't hate us because of our freedoms. He's like, they hate us because we keep going over there and killing people.
Yeah.
He's like, that's why they fucking hate us.
Right.
And everybody's like booing him. He's like, I'm right.
I'm right.
He's like, no matter how loud you boo, he's like, I am right.
It doesn't make me any less right.
It doesn't make me wrong.
Yeah.
Just because I made you mad.
Right. Yeah.
Which, speaking of the debates,
I am loving Vivek. I'm telling you, I think he might be the guy I vote for. He might be.
Yeah.
Just because he's just fucking, there's blood in the water and he's after it, man.
Oh, yeah. Especially with Nikki Haley.
With Nikki Haley, God, dude.
Oh, the part where he said, we shouldn't be sending our sons and daughters to go fight and die in Ukraine. He's like, Nikki Haley doesn't even know the 3 provinces in which we would be fighting in.
Yeah.
And she just stands there with a blank look on her fucking face. I was like, mwah.
She's just sitting there thinking, war. Lockheed Martin, war.
Just fucking eviscerated.
Yeah. And then you got Chris Christie over there who's just breathing heavy. They won't even put his ass on camera.
Yeah, the part I can't stand his ass. And then he's like, oh, listen here.
Yeah.
I serve.
He's like they plucked him from like the Republican, like the GOP, like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And stuck him in like a current debate. He's just so he just doesn't fit in.
And then he's like, I've known Nikki Haley for a long time. He's like, and I won't stand up here and let you.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh. Yeah.
He's just standing there with a CPAP machine on.
And then you got DeSantis, who's just all twitchy-eyed, can't figure out how to smile with his fucking inserts in to make him look taller. Because DeSantis is so focused on just pissing off liberals.
Yeah.
When, as a president, you have got to do more than that.
Yeah.
You got to lead the country and you got to fix the economy.
Right.
It's not, you can't just come in there and be like, I'm going to do this to piss the liberals off. Okay, well, we need some substance here.
Right.
Ron, we gotta, be the president.
No.
Yeah.
He's like, what's your foreign policy? Fuck the liberals.
Fuck the liberals.
You're like, okay. Yeah. Well, what else? And
he's like, fuck Obama. And it's just so funny to watch them debate because Vivek is he just stands head and shoulders above everyone else.
Oh, yeah. By a fucking long shot.
I mean, and the craziest thing to me is the GOP and the constituents, the Republicans and everybody, they are trying their very fucking best to prop Nikki Haley up as their candidate.
And it's not fucking
and it's
working.
Not fucking working. And this is what I foresee happening. I see Vivek being popular with the people.
Yeah.
And Nikki Haley, of course, being popular with the institution.
Right.
And they're going to edge Vivek out, and they're going to put Nikki Haley up as the candidate. And then she is going to lose handily to whoever the Democrat nominee is. That's what's going to happen.
Well, I thought Trump was still leading the polls.
Is he?
Yeah. I mean, he's not participating in any of the debates, but he's like 80% like leading in the polls.
Well, if it came down, okay. That's the thing, though. Donald Trump fans they're like a whole other party. They're like a whole other party. It's a
different thing over there.
Donald Trump came and he took like 80% of the Republicans and conservatives and he took them away.
Right.
They're his now. So now you have the Democrats versus the Republicans versus Donald Trump.
Right.
It became like this 3-headed thing where you just have 2 really weak heads now.
Right.
Yeah.
Essentially, like, he is the new Bull Moose Party. Like,
that's
essentially
unreal.
what it is. Yeah, because I mean, if I'm being intellectually honest here, Vivek is a much better candidate
than fucking Donald Trump. Yeah, you think? Yeah. I don't think that's exactly a hard, a high bar to surpass.
He definitely he has like some same like debate tactics that Trump uses, but he is much more succinct.
He is
in his delivery. Like he's like, oh yeah, well, what about this that you did?
Yeah. I haven't seen anybody stump him yet.
No,
which is really impressive to me.
He's very smart.
He's extremely smart.
Extremely intelligent. Yeah. And like I think he definitely like understands that in order for him to get the vote now, he has to be involved in the podcast circuit. He has to go on shows. And it's like, and the more that people hear him talk, I mean, he's got some policies that I don't agree with. Like, he's got some stuff that he's like, we're going to essentially wage war against the cartels in Mexico. I'm like, I don't love that.
We don't really need to get involved in that. That's just another...
Don't love that. How about we just kind of close the border?
It could be so simple.
Yeah.
They just do that.
Yeah, instead of like going down there and like shooting people.
Yeah.
It's like not a fan of that at all. But like the rest of his stuff where he's just like, oh yeah, sorry about that. But, you know, as far as like him being like, we shouldn't be involved in Ukraine. We should not be continuing to send innocent people over to die in foreign lands. It's like, all that's great.
Yeah,
I love all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. If we could stop doing that, that would fix a lot of the problems here.
Yeah.
Like if we could just pull back all that shit from over there.
Yeah.
Like y'all figure it out. And like
just focus on the people here that would need help.
Right. It's like, you imagine like you could take like 3 or 4 years of like defense budget and like actually build up like a defense.
Yeah.
Like
the amount of money that we were allocating to that shit.
Impenetrable.
Yeah.
Like you get like 100 miles from the coast and you're just
you vaporize.
You're vaporized. Like, and then like once again, our country could then become the city on a hill.
Yeah.
We could be the shining bastion.
The example
of what freedom and liberty looks like.
You could aspire to be.
Right. It's like, be the America that all the immigrants think that you are.
Yeah, that they thought we were.
Yeah.
Have you seen where all the immigrants have come here and they're like, this is not what we were told America was?
Right.
And they left?
Yeah.
I mean, when people are risking their life to get here, and then they get here and they're like, fuck this, and they leave.
This fucking sucks.
I'm going back to Venezuela. We need to start asking ourselves some very tough questions.
It's like, in order to get back to where we need to be, it's not hard to get there.
We just have to turn our focus here.
It's hard to enact the policies because people are so resistant to the policies in order to get us back to where we need to be.
Yep.
But it's like, we let Japan deal with the shit that they got going over there. It is what it is. It's not my fucking concern.
Yeah.
Let Israel do whatever the fuck it is that they got to fucking do.
Yeah.
You know what? Whatever happens, that's what fucking happens.
Yeah.
It's like, we need to build up our infrastructure here as far as like natural gas and oil. We can be self-sustaining. We don't have to worry about anyone else.
Because at the end of the day, who's helping us?
Nobody. Nobody is fucking helping us.
Nobody is helping us.
We're helping everyone else.
Yeah. And they just say thank you, and then they turn away.
Right.
Yeah. One quick thing before we close up shop for the day. I saw this video where Donald Trump, he outlined like this 10-step plan to dismantle the deep state, and I'm just listening to him talk. I'm just like, ugh, whatever. Yeah. Number one, no, you're not.
Right.
And number two, you don't even really know what the deep state is. It's just the thing. It's just the boogeyman that you know you said that there was. But then he said his 10th point, and he said, I'm going to amend the Constitution to introduce term limits for Congress. And I said,
hello.
Wait a second.
Ooh, I like that.
I do like that. Yeah. You had my curiosity. Now you have my attention. Yeah. Of course, all that is political blustering. Yeah. That wouldn't actually happen. But he's the first person I've ever heard come out and say that.
The best thing for them to do would to introduce term limits. So you need to have an up or out deal. Yeah. The Supreme Court, they need to have term limits too.
Yeah.
Like if you go from like a junior member Congress member or whatever, you then have to either move up into the Senate or you have to move up into a speaker role. If you can't do either one of those things, get the fuck on. Because you need to go back and you need to be an active member of your community,
of the society, yeah.
And you need to make profit in some way. You need to contribute. You're not contributing by going up there and jerking off and
giving yourself raises.
Yeah, giving yourself raises and all this other shit.
It's kind of like there's two separate societies in America, right? You have Congress and everyone else. And the people in Congress have zero idea of what it's like to be an American citizen. They have no idea. They have no clue.
Right.
So if you cycled American people in and out of Congress, and you get new
you would
blood
have
coming
people
through.
that would be more in tune with what is actually going on.
Right. And you would have Congress members who are going to want to improve the society that they're going to go back into.
Hell, I would be even open for people to be like, it's your turn. You now have to go serve in Congress.
You have to go serve like forced politicians. Yeah.
It's like you have to go serve your 4-year term as a Congress member.
Could you imagine like just like some fucking dude from like Alabama?
Some trailer guy.
Yeah. He's like,
they're drinking a Mountain Dew.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You get the barking guy from Appalachia. Arf, 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 arf.
Everybody's like, yes, quiet.
Yeah.
Will the member from West Virginia please stop barking? And there's like some guy from Georgia's like, yeah, go dogs.
Go dogs.
Go dogs.
Roll Tide, fuck you.
Yeah, it's too bad that we can't go see that fight.
Oh, yeah. Man, that would have been great.
Anyway, so...
You want to tell everybody about that right quick?
So the last thing before we get out of here, there's like a fight in Rome, Georgia.
Just down the road from us.
Just down the road from us. That I was on Facebook, like watching, I was scrolling through, I think like, was it like the Facebook like TV deal or whatever it is? And there's like a commercial that pops up. And there's just like all these fucking redneck guys.
Rednecks. As redneck
as you could possibly fucking get. And they're like, yo, fuck the Roll Tide, go dogs.
Yeah.
And then there's like the one guy that cracked me up was the guy that like hunched his shoulder blades up.
Yeah. Yeah. He was trying to get big. All he did was make his what do you call it, his scapula. Made his scapula pop out. Look at my bones.
He's like, fuck out of my
You can't even understand what some of them are saying. That's how we got my hair, I came out.
But
sound like that. I feel like fucking Boss Hog.
For those of you that know where we grew up, I was watching this and I almost froze when I saw it. There's a guy wearing a tank top that has
from our alma mater,
from our high school alma mater, and I was like, God damn it.
We're never beating the allegations.
I was like, well, I guess it just is what it is at this point.
Yep, that's it. But they put on this this big fight in Rome. They're doing it like the Civic Center or something.
No.
Where all these just rednecks from all these like surrounding counties will get together and they'll just fucking box. And this
boxing is loosely,
or it's just the street fighting or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how they got the go ahead to put it on, but it's tonight, and as of recording, it's tonight, and if I didn't have a company Christmas party to go to, I would be at that.
Well, I think this is like the third one that they've put on, so maybe they'll have another.
I saw that Catfish Cooley is commentating.
Oh, really?
Did you see that? He was one of the commentators.
I did not see that.
Which is very fitting.
I guess it's sort of like their own version, like Rough and Rowdy.
Yeah, it is.
Just much more degenerate.
I want to go, so we got to go to it next year.
And of course, like the ring girls wearing like boots and like Daisy Dukes and a fucking button-up T-shirt that's like tied up like right below her nipples.
We got to go see it next year.
What degenerate filth!
We should do an on-site podcast and interview people there.
We can get Scapula Man to come.
Scapula Man. The Scapula Crusader. Well, I think that's about all we got time for today, everybody. So as always, this was episode 89 of the podcast. If I have noticed that, we must have both have noticed that we are getting a lot of new views on the Facebook page. So if you're new to the podcast, hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first episode, this is kind of what this podcast is. We just kind of sit down here and we talk about whatever comes across our minds. But if you have anything that you would like us to talk about, if we were wrong about anything, make sure you write in, you let us know. You can message us on the Facebook page or you can email us at thickboypodcast@gmail.com. Do you have anything you'd like to close with?
Nope, just the usual. Thank you for the continued support. We appreciate it, as Gary stated earlier. If we're not on your preferred podcast platform, let us know. We will post the feed there. That way you can get it where you like to listen to your podcast. If I'm not mistaken, I think we're almost everywhere at this point. But
we got an email on our Google account that said we got listed somewhere else.
Like automatically?
Yeah. Medio Q.
Okay. So, I mean, if you like to listen to your podcast there, I guess we're there now at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I get maybe BuzzFeed. Not BuzzFeed, Buzzsprout.
BuzzFeed. Oh, God. I think Buzzsprout might automatically, branch it out.
Yeah, so I think that maybe they're, as new platforms are opening up and probably requesting feeds, Buzzsprout probably just gives them the RSS feed in order for them to show them there. But if we're not there, let us know. We're still working on getting the episodes uploaded to Google. And then as we're getting...
Uploaded to YouTube, you mean?
I'm sorry. Yeah, uploaded to YouTube. Owned by Google.
Owned by Google, yeah.
But yeah, so don't forget, we're coming up on episode 100. We're going to be doing something special for that. And we just look forward to you all listening in the new year.
Yep, absolutely. Well, all right, everybody, that's the podcast. Thank you and goodbye.